So you guys really seem to like that Wealthsimple video I did last week. On that Wealthsimple video, I got a comment asking me to compare Wealthsimple Trade to Questrade, which is another one of Canada's largest discount brokerages. So, on this channel, I give the people what they want. And I made a new segment called Financial Smackdown. So, as the name suggests, I'm going to be taking one thing and comparing to another thing, and both of these things are probably things in the finance world. So in this case, it will be Wealthsimple Trade and Questrade. So I take two things and I just make them fight. So I'm not sure if I want to make this into a series or not, and please let me know down in the comments if you guys want me to make this an actual series. But without further ado, let's jump in. So today we're comparing these two brokerages on 5 major points, and that being user interface, fees, customer support, features, and research. And if you see me looking down, it's because I got them written down on a note. So I can't remember 5 things. I have like the memory of a goldfish. So excuse me for that. But yeah, anyways, we're going to compare those 5 things. And let's jump into it. So first of all, number 1 is user interface. Now I'm going to start with Wealthsimple Trade. And let me just say that I've been using Wealthsimple Trade for a long time, and I really like the user interface. And in fact, that's what attracted me to Wealthsimple Trade in the first place. I just think that the user interface is so much farther ahead of what other brokerages has to offer. And I'll put up a graphic of what the user interface looks like. And let me just say that Wealthsimple Trade now has dark mode. Need I say more? So comparing Questrade to Wealthsimple Trade, you can see that Questrade has more of a traditional type of look. So if you have a Questrade account and you log in, it kind of just looks like your typical brokerage, right? So you got your charts, you got your graphics, and you got like all the features that you need. But the user interface, in my opinion, just doesn't look as nice as Wealthsimple Trade. I understand a lot of people might not care about this. And certainly, if you don't care about the user interface and how good it looks just aesthetically, then just ignore this part. But I think that looking at the App Store ratings, so if you go on the iPhone App Store ratings, you can see that the Wealthsimple Trade app ranks far ahead of Questrade when it comes to the ratings. So Wealthsimple Trade almost has a perfect 5-star rating. I think it's like 4.7, 4.8, something like that. Versus if you compare it to Questrade, which has a remarkably lower rating. So you can see just from the ratings of the different apps that Wealthsimple Trade is just so much better rated and so much higher rated in the App Store compared to Questrade. So people do seem to like Wealthsimple Trade a lot more, at least from the mobile experience. And now Wealthsimple Trade does not have a desktop experience, so I can't really compare the desktop to Questrade and what Questrade looks like on the computer. But you guys can kind of get a sense of what Wealthsimple Trade looks like just by the graphics that I've shown you. So yeah, for user interface, the edge goes to Wealthsimple Trade. So Wealthsimple Trade 1, Questrade 0. Now let's move on to number 2. Number 2 is customer support. So customer support is very important, especially if you have a lot of money invested in either brokerages. Now, Questrade does have live chat support. They have phone support, and they also have an email address that you can email them and request support for. Now, personally, I've never had to contact customer support on my brokerage for whatever reason. I can't really think of like a scenario where I would need to like call someone and get to it right away, right? So, I don't have that much money involved. I don't have like millions of dollars where I need someone to just like watch over it 24/7, day by day. So if you do have millions of dollars like invested, I probably wouldn't recommend you use something like Questrade, which is has better support than Wealthsimple Trade. Now, in contrast, Wealthsimple Trade only has email support. So if you ever have a problem, you have to email Wealthsimple, and they'll probably get back to you within a few hours. I've heard that Wealthsimple is pretty prompt with their responses, but it's not going to be as prompt as having a live chat or just being able to dial on the phone and call up someone if you ever have a problem. So when it comes to customer support, Questrade does have more of an edge, and the point goes to Questrade. So now we're all squared up at 1-1. Now let's move on to the third round of Financial Smackdown. So the third round is fees. And I think that this is where Wealthsimple really shines. And yeah, I know I kind of just spoiled this one for you, but Wealthsimple is going to win this one. And that's because Wealthsimple is Canada's first and only commission-free trading platform. Now, a lot of my viewers are from America, and you guys have been spoiled by the commission-free trading services, right? I'm talking about apps like Robinhood or M1 Finance or Webull. All of these even the big ones like Fidelity or Charles Schwab, none of them have commission fees now, right? So they've all gotten rid of them. But here in Canada, most brokerages still has commissions. Now, Wealthsimple is one of the only ones, probably the only one I think, that does not have commission fees. So this is where Wealthsimple really shines, is that it trades just like, it's just like Robinhood, right? You can buy and sell stocks without any commissions. It's just as simple as that. And also, furthermore, Wealthsimple Trade also does not have any account minimums, and they don't have any account maintenance fees or any fees like that. Now, there is a small fee for converting Canadian dollars to US dollars. They charge a 1.5% currency conversion fee. So if you're buying a lot of American stocks, you might want to have a brokerage that has a US dollar account that you can directly deposit US dollars in. But I'm getting ahead of myself there. That's more for like the feature section. But in terms of fees, I think you're not going to do much better than Wealthsimple. Like Wealthsimple Trade has pretty much no fees anywhere. Now compare this to Questrade. Questrade has your typical commission fees, right? So the commission fees of Questrade ranges between $4.95 to $9.95. So the way that Questrade fees works is that you'll spend a cent per share of stock that you purchase or sell even, and you'll spend a maximum of $9.95 and a minimum of $4.95. So it could be anywhere within that range, and it depends on how much stock you buy or sell. So, the fees kind of vary, but you'll be spending at least around $5 per trade when you buy stocks. And Questrade also has options, which granted, Wealthsimple Trade does not have options. So at least Questrade has that feature, but it will cost you. So it costs $9.95 or 99 cents. It costs around $10 per trade of options plus $1 per contract, which means that if you're buying, let's say, a lot of contracts, if you're buying options on like a really small stock where you need to buy a lot of contracts, then you might have to spend a little more in terms of commission fees. If you're buying contracts of like Tesla or Amazon or something, then you're probably not going to be buying a ton of contracts, which means that you'll probably not spend that much on the additional $1 per contract fee, but you'll at least spend around $10 per trade when it comes to your options. Also, it is worth mentioning that Questrade does have an account inactivity fee. So the way that that works is that you need to have at least $1,000 in your account of Questrade, and you need to make at least one trade per quarter. Now, if you have less than $1,000 in your account and you don't make a trade every quarter, then you're going to get charged around the $25 inactivity fee. Now, in my opinion, this is not that big of a deal because it's relatively easy to avoid, right? So a quarter is 3 months. And as long as you make at least one transaction every 3 months, then you'll be able to avoid the account inactivity fee. Alternatively, you can just deposit more than $1,000 into your account. And that's also a way for you to avoid the inactivity fee. So in my opinion, this is not that big of an issue. But if you have a small account and if you have a small amount of money and you don't make that many trades, this could be an issue. So this is one thing that you should keep in mind. Yeah, so this is just one little extra minor thing that you have to worry about if you have a Questrade account versus Wealthsimple. So it's not that big of a deal, but it's just something that I should mention and something that I should point out. So with that being said, Wealthsimple Trade definitely wins this round in terms of fees. And I'm going to give the point to Wealthsimple. So Wealthsimple is now leading 2-1. Now, without further ado, let's move on to round number 4, which is features. And in my opinion, I think this is where Questrade really shines because, as I mentioned earlier, Questrade at least gives you the option to buy options. Excuse the pun, no pun intended, but they give you the option to buy options in Questrade versus with Wealthsimple Trade, you can't even buy options even if you wanted to. So the point definitely goes to Questrade when it comes to features. Now, actually, I'm going to give 2 points in this section because there are other features I wanted to mention that Questrade kind of has and Wealthsimple Trade is sort of lagging behind a little. Now, of course, I'm talking about the US dollar account. So here in Canada, if you wanted to invest in US stocks, you have several options. You can either convert your Canadian dollars to US dollars in your brokerage account, which I don't really recommend because they tend to charge a higher fee, or you can take your Canadian dollars and you can go somewhere else and have it exchanged. So the exchange service that I use is called Knightsbridge, and I'm not sponsored by Knightsbridge, by the way. It's just the service that I use, and I kind of like them because they always give the best rates versus what the banks give, right? So you can take your money and give it to Knightsbridge and have them exchange it for you, and then take back your money in US dollars and put it directly into your brokerage account as US dollars. So some brokerages like Questrade will actually let you hold US dollars, which is a massive convenience because you don't have to convert your US dollars through them, and you can save quite a bit of money on currency conversion. And now the drawback to Wealthsimple Trade is that they do not let you hold US dollars. So there are no US dollar accounts, which means that if you're buying US stocks using Wealthsimple Trade, then you're going to have to convert Canadian dollars to US dollars on the fly. And this really sucks because, as I mentioned earlier in the fee section, they do charge a 1.5% currency conversion fee, which, if you're doing the math at home, depending on how much stocks you're buying and depending on the value of the stocks you're buying, you might be better off paying like $10 per trade in flat commission fees rather than that 1.5%, which is going to be a variable rate because it's a percentage, right? So it depends on how many stocks you're buying and what's the value of the stocks that you're buying. So because of that reason, where Questrade will actually let you hold US dollars and Wealthsimple Trade will not let you hold US dollars, I'm going to have to give the point to Questrade. So that puts Questrade ahead once again. Now let's move on to the final round number 5, which is research. So you know how some brokerages have their own built-in research tools, right? I know RBC kind of uses Morningstar and they kind of have their own system. And I don't actually have a Questrade account, so I'm not sure where they get their data from. Maybe they just do it in-house, but I know that Questrade does have stock analytical tools, and Wealthsimple Trade unfortunately does not. So if you log into Wealthsimple Trade, it's just very bare bones, right? So it's just a stock chart and it gives you some very, very basic info about the stock. But you can't really do any research on Wealthsimple Trade. It's just an app that's just meant for you to, trade. Yeah, so you're only able to trade on Wealthsimple Trade and you're not really able to get any detailed info on it. Now, this is not that big of a deal for me because I don't really tend to use the built-in brokerage provided research tools anyways, but I know for some of you that matters, right? So if you're using Questrade, they do have that option for you to, dive deep into a stock and read up more about it right within the app versus with Wealthsimple Trade, you don't have that option at all. And again, I don't know how good the research tools are, but at least Questrade has them. And for that, I have to give them the edge. So I have to give them another point, which means that Questrade is now winning 4-2. And that brings us to the end of Financial Smackdown. And looking at the score, it does seem like Questrade is now our winner, winning a score of 4-2. Now, with that being said, I'm actually going to give my own personal victory to Wealthsimple Trade. Now, you're probably sitting at home and going,
Is that legal? Can he do that?
and to that, I have to say, this is my show. I can do whatever I want, okay? But in all seriousness, though, I'm giving my victory to Wealthsimple Trade just because I think that Wealthsimple Trade has the features that I need, right? So for me, you guys know I already have a brokerage account with RBC Direct Investing, and I have the research tools and the options trading and all those like US dollar accounts and all those like fancy features within RBC Direct Investing. Now, if you're a complete beginner in the stock market, and let's say you're looking to open up your first brokerage account, then I think Questrade overall is a little bit better, and you're a little bit better off going with Questrade as your main account. But then again, you can't really go wrong with either one, right? And actually, I would recommend you open both of them. So there's nothing stopping you from opening up both a Wealthsimple Trade account and a Questrade account. But for me, I think as a second brokerage, I value the no fees part of Wealthsimple Trade a lot more, and I do like the user interface. So I'm going to give my own personal victory to Wealthsimple Trade. But once again, you can't really go wrong with either one. And, I understand that if I had to choose one, I would probably choose Questrade just because it has more features. Anyways, I hope this video cleared up some of the differences between these two services, and hopefully you have a better idea as to which one you go with. And once again, I really don't think you can go wrong with either. They're both pretty great services from what I understand. And hopefully you found this video helpful. And if you did, please be sure to hit the like button and consider subscribing if you like this series. Be sure to also follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I'll leave the links down below in the description as always. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.